I've thought about making this video about 30 times over the last 6 months, and I've never sat down to actually make it because it's an issue that is really contentious in the autism world, or it can be really contentious in the autism world, I guess. I see it come up every now and then, and depending on who's talking about it, and either way you say it, there's a chance that someone is going to get angry about the wording. Maggie was diagnosed and had been diagnosed for a while, and I didn't realize that either saying it either way could be quite a minefield until it was brought to my attention by other parents who informed me that using the word autistic, that saying she was autistic, was actually very, very demeaning. You wouldn't refer to other people with other disabilities by their disability, and it was almost always parents. Actually, it was exclusively always parents who were very, very heated about this and who were getting really, really upset about this, about using the word autistic. The thing that made me a little bit uncomfortable about throwing out the word altogether, it can get pretty heated, either in one direction or the other, depending on who the group is that's talking about it. I really didn't have that strong opinion one way or another, and I wasn't really sure that I had that much to add to the conversation, which is one of the reasons that I haven't made a video about it. But it's also a subject that I felt like I was tiptoeing around all the time, and it's gotten harder to tiptoe around it because I didn't realize that there were actually more sides to this issue than I originally knew about it. And so today I am going to talk about it because I'm tired of tiptoeing. The issue is person-first language. And for those of you who don't know, that's whether or not we say a person is autistic or a person is a person with autism, was that the people that I heard defending the use of the word and identifying with it were basically all on the spectrum. If I'm going to choose who I'm going to listen to on an issue about autism, I would rather listen to adults who are on the spectrum over other parents about how they feel about how they want to be identified. Maggie isn't old enough to tell me which she prefers, and I don't know if she's ever going to be verbal enough to tell me how she feels about it. I hope that she is, but I'm not really sure. We're not at a place to really judge that yet, and so I don't know. I can't ask her. But the reactions I saw to the word autistic were a lot of times just very, very heated responses that the word should absolutely not be used. It should be thrown out altogether. I didn't personally feel that there was anything wrong with the word, but I just felt like it was safer to use person with autism, person-first language is what it's called, just because I didn't really want to make anyone upset. I'd had enough people jump down my throat about it to be a little bit wary. I didn't want to get in fights about what we're calling it when I felt like we had bigger issues to be talking about. Although maybe that is part of the issue. Maybe being able to use the word autistic is part of the issue with acceptance, because at this point I'd had people react so strongly to me that I have a hard time using it now because I feel like somebody is going to jump down my throat when I use the word autistic or I put it in a title or anything. I'm nervous about the reaction because I've had that reaction before. But then recently it came to my attention that there were some people that felt really strongly about person-first language, that there are especially some people on the spectrum who felt really strongly about not having it said that they were a person with autism, and that they didn't like it being said that they were a person with autism because when it was said that way it was usually referenced as a disease, that usually it was also, people would say symptoms of autism instead of signs, and that it was spoken of usually really, really negatively a lot of the time, so that they would rather go by autistic than a person with autism or someone with autism. So that I was really, really confused. And then I tried to start just using on the spectrum because that just felt safer. My daughter's on the spectrum. And then I told my breath, like, is anyone going to be offended by this? And at least no one's ever yelled at me over saying my daughter has autism or my daughter's on the spectrum. No one has come after me for that, but I am trying to be sensitive to what people who actually are on the spectrum prefer. And if most people prefer not to use person-first language, if they do identify, if more people do identify as autistic, if Maggie and Tessie do someday identify as autistic, I'll happily use that over any other language. And so that is how, at least as I've seen and heard people argue over it, it has become a complicated issue in the community around me. At this point, I'm not going to stop using the word autistic again, because I've heard from so many people on the spectrum that that's actually what they prefer be used over the person first language. And so that's kind of where I am right now. I'll still use on the spectrum. I probably will still slip and use the person first language sometime, because it became such a habit of mine that that was what was safe, and that seemed to be the least offensive thing. Although now it really seems like there's no right answer anymore, which is sad. I wish we were to a place with acceptance of autism, where it wasn't such a fearful thing for parents, especially when their children were getting a diagnosis, that even the names for it are seen in such a negative way that we have to be arguing like this. Because I think that's what it comes down to. I think that's what a lot of the arguments are over. People don't want their kids labeled with something personally that they see as really negative. Other people identify with that thing because they don't see it as negative at all. And it becomes kind of complicated. And really, we need to be working towards making this world a place where our kids are accepted the way they are, and where they'll be accepted as adults. Adults who are still going to be on the autism spectrum, just like they were when they were cute little kids who were on the autism spectrum. Anyways, that is it for today. If you like this video, I'd love it if you would hit that like button. And if you're interested in all things autism, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.